Get ready for Solomon's Porch Podcast. Hey, giving the glory to God. Yeah, you're hanging with Jason and Sean. Get ready for Solomon's Porch.
Jesus is King finally dropped, and Kanye West is doing interviews, all sorts of stuff. And we have Lora Ray here with us from the Invasion Movement. We're going to talk about this together. And we've all listened to it. Sean shared me his initial thoughts, which looked like a bunch of vomit emojis.
Oh, wow.
I'll say this. Sean, I can't remember the last thing that has come out that Sean was like, that was awesome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Movie, show, album.
So Sean is like that, huh?
Sean is just no longer a fan of anything at all.
Uh-huh.
Well, no. As I really like As I Lay Dying's new album.
Okay. All right. It's rare. That's rare. Okay.
And speaking of rare, I liked Rare's last stuff too.
So Sean is tough.
Sean's tough. All right. So this is going to be our official review for the Jesus is King album. Initial thoughts. I kind of just took some miniature notes, not long, extraordinary notes. So I'm just going to kind of run through them real quick. For me, Selah, the first song, the very first track is like a Sunday service worship track. Sean said you weren't a fan of it because of soprano.
Oh, dude, come on, man. That choir, it's not even like soprano. It's like ultra soprano or something.
Just because you can't sing it doesn't mean you can't.
No, it's just so annoying. It's so high pitched.
Well,
so long.
In all fairness, I think that it's not like I think they did something in the studio to make it sound a little more high pitched.
I agree.
Because it sounds a little mechanic almost.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's a Kanye thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean he's done it before on other tracks, and so it's just that it's obnoxious, and honestly,
he said obnoxious.
That's the problem with a good chunk of this album is that he's got stuff in there that's just crazy obnoxious. I mean,
I don't even know how you like. I don't even know what that means. I have no idea what that means right now.
How do you define obnoxious? I think is what he's saying.
Okay, so what is it? God is where the ding 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 is. Is that right? Am I remembering that correct?
God is the one song I was not a fan of. I wrote that in my notes. Not a fan.
But that is the one that has the car door dinging, right?
I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I think it is. So anyway, but like it starts off with this car door dinging noise, and it just goes on, and it's so long on the intro that you go, man, I can't even stand to listen to this anymore. I'm not even getting what it's about anymore because my head hurts. Now, I went back and I listened to it again, and I tried to tune it out. And it eventually, later on in the song, it gets to be a little less, and he cuts it out a little bit here and there, and you can actually get the message. Oh no, it was Use This Gospel. That's what it was.
Okay, Use This Gospel.
And I was like, you know what? You got a song called Use This Gospel, and I'm thinking I wouldn't share this song with anybody. It's
got the clips on it though, man. It's the first time the clips has been reunited.
Anyway, it was just
forever.
It was rough. It really was rough. And then he can't end a song proper. I mean, Closed on Sunday.
That's Kanye.
Chick-fil-A. I mean, what? Come on, man. Anyway.
So some of my notes, aside from that, on Selah, to me, the beat messed me up so bad because it felt like it was so early.
Okay.
Like, it didn't feel like a regular count, which, again, Kanye wants to be different. I respect that.
Yeah.
But it was so hard for me to follow. I mean, it was okay. It just, the beat threw me off so bad.
Yeah.
Follow God, it reminded me of an older Jay-Z track.
Okay.
So all I felt was like Jay-Z the whole time. Closed on Sunday, I love the beat change up. The song itself was okay, but the beat change up for me was the best thing of the song. On God, I really enjoyed that song all around. Everything.
Okay, but I mean, can you explain that to me? Because like I totally didn't get his like 13th Amendment thing.
I don't know.
I see, that's what I'm saying.
The whole song was
at that point in time. I'm like,
I
don't get it. So then I'm so hung up on that I'm not paying attention to the rest of the song. I read all the lyrics to every single track that he has. Okay?
So you just don't understand Kanye, but nobody does.
Well,
so.
I mean, okay, I give it the brothers bipolar. I get that, and I'm not knocking them for it. But the point is that, you know, there's a point of being creative, and then just to where it's just too much that people just aren't getting it. And look,
so you're Skinner. You're just a simple man.
No.
That's what you
I'm
are.
a very artistic guy. I really am. I mean, if you look at my photographs, my personal work, you'd be like, "Ew, why do you do that to an orange? I don't get it." But again, if you're putting out a gospel album, though, how artistic should you be going with it? Because the point is that you're trying to reach people with the gospel, and if I can't understand it, then your point is moot.
But Kanye's trying to be innovative. His whole entire thing, his whole shtick is innovation.
And I get that, and
that's his whole
musically
shtick.
he is. But lyrically, come on, you got to give me a break.
Well, I think if I could just interject something, I think that it depends on the perception or the perspective that you go into listening to this album with. See, I went into listening to this knowing that it's going to be something off the wall, or, because I know Kanye, or
Right.
I get that vibe. I understand his vibe, I guess. So I wasn't going into listening to his project like I would, any other gospel album. I already knew it was going to be, for a lack of a better phrase, cutting edge.
Right.
Sean might disagree with me on that one, but I knew it was going to be, some may even think a little, strange or whatever. But so I think if you go into it, expecting to, compare it to another gospel album that's out or whatever, I think you're right. You're going to kind of be like, well, wait, what was that? But I went into it listening like, okay, I'm about to hear something that I probably haven't heard any other gospel album throw into their music. So I kind of went in with a blank slate mentality, so to speak.
Which is good.
And I think what I was listening for the most is the heart behind what he was saying.
Oh, definitely.
And I went in, I pay attention to lyrics more than anything. Of course we know that the beat and all that has to, be appealing as well, but I'm a big lyric person. Like especially when it comes to gospel or Christian music, like I want to hear what you're claiming,
Right.
with your lyrics, what you're representing. And so I went in really focusing on the lyrics and really discerning what was behind what he was saying, if that makes sense. And I'm a little bit of a deep thinker like that anyway. But but yeah, I loved it, to be honest. I absolutely loved it. Now, the very first time I listened to it, I was kind of like, okay, just processing, But I listened to it a few more times, especially on the way here, and probably went over it like 3 or 4 times and just really dissecting it. And I got to tell you, the more I listen to it, the more I'm feeling it. I don't know. I'm still filling out why that is that I'm feeling it so much. But well, I think I have a couple of reasons why I'm feeling it like that. But the more I listen to it, the more I'm really like vibing with it. I get a heart of passion and sincerity behind what he's saying. I really do. Sure. And I even went in not expecting him to say things all the way theologically accurate, if that makes sense.
See, that was my issue. I was listening for theology. Like,
Yeah.
okay, if he's being
And me
discipled,
too. Yeah.
let me see how much discipleship
I'm
he's
listening
getting.
for that too, because if you start singing heresy or anything, I'm like,
Right.
But I was really, man, like, okay, the very first song I heard was Jesus is Lord. And I heard it because someone had it, I think The Truth or somebody had it on their Instagram. And I hadn't realized it had come out. And I just heard like the first 20 seconds. It was only 50 seconds long, 49. But immediately when I heard it, I just heard this pureness. But in that song specifically, it might be my favorite one. It's only 50 seconds, but
That was gonna be my next question: is what was?
yeah,
Personally,
just
that's
purity.
a gripe of mine, is that how short everything is.
Yeah.
Now that's an issue I have
Most
as well.
people complained about that. Yeah.
I feel like Jesus is Lord could have been a whole song.
Yeah.
He could have put some bars with that or had some people singing some verses. I might even try to send a tweet or something to his wife and be like, can you tell him to redo this song and make it a whole 5-minute song? Because I really am feeling that Jesus is Lord. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I guess it just depends on kind of your perspective of how you're and what you look to get out of a record too. I mean, I think everybody's like that.
But see, I think that that's the crux of it, is that if he's billing this as a gospel album, and I don't think that that's accurate. I don't think you should bill it as a gospel album.
Okay.
It can be a Christ explicit album.
Okay.
But to me, this is still Kanye
Okay.
doing a Christ explicit album, not a gospel album. Because I would argue that on Life of Pablo, Ultralight Beam was a gospel track in terms of everything that we know about the genre of gospel music. It fit all of that structure. Now, what was cool, I will say, about this album is that he did pull out little bits here and there. So, like, having Fred Hammond on there.
Yeah.
Even though most of Fred Hammond stuff is not intelligible. But then we also got, Kenny G doing sax. Sax is very gospel-y. And so I totally get all of that stuff. But don't try to sell me that this is a gospel album, because it's not a gospel album.
So what is your definition of gospel, though? I mean, like, because I think a lot of people have different opinions about what that even means.
See, and I think that's the beauty of what Kanye is trying to do here is, and he's doing it with his Sunday morning service.
Innovative gospel.
Is he's trying to say everything that you thought that you knew about Sunday morning service.
Yeah.
Toss it out the window.
Yeah.
It's not about the four walls, and you get all that if you listen to any of his interviews.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too. Is that frankly, if you don't listen to any of his interviews, his interpretation of what he's doing, then you don't understand his heart either.
Right.
And so after that, I think that I'm a lot warmer to this album. But just, man, don't call it a gospel album, because if I walk into a store and I'm looking at genres of music, this doesn't fit gospel album to me.
So you're from what I hear you saying, it sounds like you're saying that gospel is more like the choir-y type albums, or songs you would sing in church.
Well, so you've got Southern gospel and then you got gospel.
Sure.
And we call it gospel because we don't want to call it black gospel.
Right.
Because nobody wants to be perceived as racist, but that's essentially what that is. Okay,
Sure.
So it's going to be an African American music base, and so we've got crazy grooving bass lines just scrolling through these songs. We've got choirs that are just all over the place, and
live
somebody's
drums.
just and look, dude, man, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying is that, so if you're telling me that you've got a gospel album, I'm like, okay, right on, I'm down with that, right?
Yeah.
And you're not giving me anything that remotely resembles Fred Hammond's music, then okay, I'm not buying it on that level.
Gotcha.
But then understanding that he is trying to break outside of all of that.
Yeah.
I get it, but
I think I hear a little more where you're coming from with that. I got you.
Well, I'll say this. My favorite song, which is a song we're going to talk about in depth, the content of the song, is Hands On.
Okay.
It almost brought me to tears listening to it, just because I could see exactly what he was talking about online before this album dropped. And so
Everything We Need was my favorite.
So that was yours. How about yours, Laura?
I know it
So
says
it depends on if, like, probably Jesus is Lord is the closest to like a gospel-y feel for me. I'm a huge praise and worship lover. The music that I do is mostly praise and worship in my own personal ministry. But as far as like with rap and stuff, wow, they all are so good. Hands On might be in the top 2, maybe. Really feeling Everything We Need a little bit. And was kind of feeling Follow God a little. So I'm still kind of debating on if like my number one, but the most that I gelled with off the bat would have to be Jesus is Lord, although it's not technically a full song.
Sometimes it's that way.
Right.
Honestly, lyrically, out of all of them, the one that affected me the most was Water.
Right.
But I really hate the music. I hate the music. But lyrically, it was probably the most profound for me. And that's where, again, the reason why I read everything was to be able to make sure that I got his heart and what it was that he was going for with it.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, that's our review for Jesus is King, the new Kanye West album. Let us know what your thoughts were in all the comments and areas that this will be shared. So,